Handling and control of livestock, understanding flight zone and point of balance. This video will help explain some basic concepts that many of you instinctively know and do as you move and herd animals. For others, it will be new information that will guide and give a scientific structure to the principles behind handling of animals. Two key concepts that will be introduced to you are the point of balance and flight zone. These concepts are central to understanding how animals react to the herdsman or woman. These concepts were developed in the US by world-renowned animal specialist Temple Grandin.
The flight zone boundary and the point of balance of an animal are crucial to low-stress handling of cattle. The flight zone is that circle around the animal as shown in this illustration. In fact, if you're anywhere outside of his flight zone boundary, he won't move. By moving in and out of that boundary, we can start the animal or we can stop him. It all revolves around that point of balance. It's also key to remember that an animal has a blind spot, just like you and I have a blind spot when driving a car. If we move into the animal's blind spot, the animal will stop. He can't see us. He may be confused or feel endangered.
Handlers who understand the concepts of flight zone and point of balance will be able to move animals more easily. The flight zone. The flight zone is the animal's personal space, and the size of the flight zone is determined by the wildness or tameness of the animal. An animal will begin to move away when the handler penetrates the edge of the flight zone. In a field, you can locate the edge of the flight zone by moving towards an animal. At the edge of the flight zone, the animal will raise its head, stop eating, and turn to you and move to face you. Once they start to move, you are in the flight zone. Deep, hurried penetration into the flight zone will prompt fear, agitation, or aggression towards you. The size of the flight zone gets smaller with frequent handling. If all the animals are facing the handler is outside the flight zone. This diagram illustrates the general flight zone of an animal. The actual flight zone of an individual animal will vary depending on how tame and calm the animal is. The flight zone gets bigger when the animal becomes excited. The flight zone is also bigger when you approach head-on. When the handler is outside the flight zone, the animals will turn and face the handler and maintain a safe distance. Point of balance. The point of balance is usually at the animal's shoulder, and it is determined by the animal's wide-angle vision. This can be considered as the animal's centre of gravity as far as movement is concerned, as an animal has better vision at this point and can observe movement towards them and can be easily influenced at this point.
The point of balance is its shoulder. If you stand straight across from the shoulder, it is likely that the animal won't move.
Animals will move in the opposite direction to the direction the handler is moving as the handler passes the animal's point of balance. We must now combine our knowledge of the flight zone and point of balance to help us in moving livestock. To initiate movement, apply gentle pressure at the edge of the flight zone. Be aware of the animal's point of balance and walk past it in the opposite direction to the movement you're looking for. Do not put continued pressure on the animal's flight zone once the animal is moving. Back off and apply intermittent pressure to the flight zone. Walking in the opposite direction tends to speed up movement, and walking in the same direction tends to slow down movements. These principles work with all herding animals. So, to get an animal to move, walk past it in the opposite direction to the direction you want it to move. As you cross the animal's point of balance, it will begin moving forward. Groups of cattle in a crush will often move forward without prodding when the handler walks past the point of balance at the shoulder in the opposite direction to each animal in the crush. It is not necessary to prod every animal. If the animals are moving through the crush by themselves, leave them alone. Animals have a tendency to want to go back to where they came from, so we should use this in our design of facilities. These cattle move easily into the crush as they feel they are on a return path. This principle is often incorporated into cattle movement design in meat factories. 90% of facilities in the United States are now styled on Temple Grandin design principles. Do not chase a lone animal or a few stragglers. The motion of the herd will attract them back. Calm cattle are easier to move. If cattle become excited, it takes 20 to 30 minutes for them to calm back down. People should be quiet when moving animals. Yelling and loud noise is very stressful. High-pitched noises are especially stressful. A group of animals will have a point of balance for the entire group. A good stock person can move the herd by working the group point of balance. The handler should avoid the blind spot behind the animal's rear. The animals have learned that a calm handler will back up and remove pressure from the flight zone when they go where the handler wants them to go. Of course, the more time you spend walking through the herd, you will reduce the size of the flight zone and the more control you will have. A skilled handler can learn to predict many animal reactions, is aware of the temperament of livestock, and uses the animal's natural behaviour as an aid in livestock handling, which helps to have a less stressed, safer, and more profitable enterprise.